Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch from Crime Talk, and I am coming to you from an undisclosed location in Denver, Colorado, also known as my kitchen table. So what I want to do this evening is talk about a couple of things. First, we have the college admission scandal I'd like to talk about. A lot of that stuff going on today. New charges coming out against celebrities, very wealthy people. The question is going to be, are they going to be given a Smollett by the United States attorney, or are they going to go after them more severely because of their status, and they do not want to be perceived as going soft on anyone who has wealth, money, and fame. So that's going to be an interesting thing I think we can talk about this evening as well. If you like the program, please subscribe, tell a friend. We appreciate it. Hit the like button, hit that little bell as well. Now, another story that I'd like to talk about, it's been a couple of weeks since we've done the Dumb Criminal of the Week. And sometimes we have a group of contestants, but tonight we have narrowed it down and we're going to go straight to the winner. There is a gentleman in Dallas, Texas, and his name is Richard Hayes. And he has been described as the Dallas Butthole Bandit. And apparently he would go around town, break into people's homes, and he would then tickle males' buttocks with a feather and then leave about his way. He was ultimately arrested and is obviously being charged with burglary and taking various other things as well. But I do not get it. I do not understand why he thought this would be a good idea. But apparently that's his thing. So, the butthole tickler, Mr. Hayes, has succeeded in winning the Crime Talk Dumb Criminal of the Week. Now, all Mr. Hayes has to do to claim his prize is send him a self-addressed stamped envelope, and we will send him a Crime Talk mug. Because after all, he deserves it. He's going to have a lot of time to think about what he was doing, and he's got some issues. Hopefully he can get the help that he deserves. Now, the other thing we need to talk about is the college admission scandal. Now, Felicity Huffman, Laughlin, and her fashion designer husband, Mossimo Giannulli, were indicted on additional charges of fraud and money laundering. And Miss Laughlin apparently is making quite an impression with the United States attorney, because she basically said she's not going to take a deal if it doesn't involve probation. Now, you have to remember, Miss Laughlin and her husband paid $500,000 in bribes to get their daughters admitted to the University of Southern California as crew team members. And why does anybody care? Well, because neither one of them participated in that particular sport, but they were trying to do it to gain status into this private school. And, you would think, like most private schools, you would simply be able to say, I can afford to pay the exorbitant and expensive tuition, and therefore your child would be accepted. But these people, instead of getting their kids, tutors or maybe a coach to teach them how to do crew and maybe a boat and go out and do this, no. They went and paid some $500,000. Now, what Ms. Laughlin should really be upset about is that obviously they use the same college admission person, this gentleman in Orange County, California. But Felicity Huffman only had to pay $15,000. Is that because Miss Laughlin's children were that much less intelligent? They needed even more help? Or did this guy just take the Laughlin and her husband for $500,000 because he thought they'd pay for it and they would do what they needed to do? But let's get serious, all right? So oftentimes people think when somebody goes into court, there's a crime charge, there's a maximum penalty. So for example, for wire fraud, the maximum penalty is 20 years in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, okay? It's not like you're going to go in and tell the United States attorney, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to plead guilty to, and I'm going to get probation, okay? Most cases in United States District Court do not get probation, okay? Most people, if you get to go to federal court, you're more than likely going to prison. And it has really nothing to do with what you want to do. Now, years ago, I think maybe about 7-8 years ago, the United States Supreme Court basically said these United States federal sentencing guidelines that had been imposed, created by Congress or delegated to a commission that the Congress created to create these guidelines, they looked at it and they said basically every federal crime is going to get an offense level. And we're going to put that on a big chart and a graph. And at the top, we're going to put your criminal history. So if you've been in trouble one time, you're not going to get as much punishment as somebody who's been in trouble 15 or more times. And based upon that, you're going to be able to look, you're going to be able to go down, and you're going to say that is how many months that you would get in federal prison. And it used to be that was mandatory. So this very short, the small range on the federal sentencing guidelines is where you were going to go to prison. There was no real sentencing that took place where a judge actually decided anything. Well, the United States Supreme Court said, no, you know what, we're not going to do this. It basically takes away our authorities from our judges. It's unconstitutional, but we don't want to completely scrap it because we spent all this time, effort, and money trying to create these federal sentencing guidelines. So this will simply be one of the factors that the judge would have to consider when making a sentence. And then you go to what they refer to as 18 United States Code 13 3552 18 no, that's not 18. What am I doing, Scott? 1355 18 USC 1350, let's see, yeah, there it is, 1855A. You go to it's everything for, you look at the character of the person involved. Have they been in trouble that much? You look at what is needed for rehabilitation, deterrence effect, not only for the individual that is being punished, but to deter others in a similar situation or those that would consider taking that. And 3355A. And these sentencing factors is what the judge needs to consider. And I apologize, it was 3553A, factors to be imposed at the time of considering for sentencing. So you have one factor is the court has to basically start at the federal sentencing guidelines, and I'll talk about that in just a second, how those come into it. And then the judge has to simply look at the other factors, the nature and circumstances of the offense and the history characteristics of the defendant. The need for the sentence to be imposed to reflect the seriousness of the offense, to promote respect for the law and provide just punishment for the offense charged, to afford adequate deterrence to the criminal conduct, to protect the public from further crime of the defendant, and to provide the defendant with the needed educational, vocational training, medical care, or other correctional treatment in the most effective manner. So basically, it's what are we going to do to impose a sentence that doesn't impose a whole lot of sentencing disparity. Now, there's not a whole lot of college admission scandals that go on. Most mail fraud, wire fraud cases involve stealing money, engaging in some sort of fraud. It's kind of unique to see the way that the United States Attorney has charged this in this particular case, but the courts need to consider that. But now, so if you go to the federal sentencing guidelines, and like I said, each criminal history, criminal conduct has a offense level. And so you can have literally up to 1 or up to level 38, and the more serious they become, the higher the penalty goes. So if you look at just good old-fashioned wire fraud, which is 18 United States Code 1343, it is a base offense level of 7. All right, and that's literally 0 to 6 months, which one would be probation eligible, which is very unusual. But then you have to figure whether there was the offense involved a misrepresentation, that the defendant was acting on behalf of a charitable organization, a governmental agency. Was there a scheme or a fraud initiated from outside the United States? And the additional charges that came in today was that they're charging money laundering, that the money came from out of the country to be committed illegally in the United States to perpetrate the crime here. That bumps it up as well. So once again, that's just one of the factors that the courts needs to consider. So if you started off and you look at 18 U.S.C. United States Code, like I said, it's base offense level of 7, assuming someone has never been in trouble before in their day in their life, they're a criminal history category 1 under the sentencing guidelines. You have to look at the loss of the dollar amount. Well, there's really not a loss here because it was just paid to somebody else. So it's not like it's a fraud that's been committed in any way. But let's just say, for example, we use the loss of the dollar amount as the Miss Laughlin's case. Suddenly, that bumps up from a level 7. It increases it 12 points. So now all of a sudden you're looking at 46 to 57 months in federal prison. And the thing about federal prison, ladies and gentlemen, is you're going to serve most of your time there. And maybe Miss Laughlin doesn't understand this. Maybe she hasn't been explained to her by her attorneys, but they've kind of got her dead to right. And that's the other thing that most people don't understand. When the federal government is coming after you, most federal prosecutions, and why they have such a high conviction rate, and the fact that so few trials actually go to trial in federal court, is because in state court, the police are reacting. Like, oh, there's a shooting. We should go figure it out. We need to go do this. But what the federal government does is they build a case, and when they think they have enough evidence, that's when they indict. And at that point, here you go, and you're going to be indicted. And they could have taken years to prosecute your case, and then when you get there, the criminal defendant has literally 70 days, unless you ask for various continuances and things of that nature, to try and get an extension to prepare for it. It's what they call an ends of justice or a complexity type of hearing. But so jumping back, so if you jump up with Ms. Laughlin, the $500,000, all of a sudden she jumps up there pretty darn high, where she's looking at a range of 46 to 57 months. So you have a couple of factors. You have the person's criminal history. Where do they come out on the advisory sentencing guidelines? It's simply just a place to start, all right? But then the judge has absolute discretion in what he can do. It's a good old-fashioned sentencing. It's really open. The judge is like, I'm going to consider this, but guess what? I can make the sentence as low, or I can impose the maximum sentence, and there's nothing that the defendant can do. There's nothing that the defendant can do to withdraw your plea at that point, simply because you're not happy or satisfied with the sentence. Additionally, it's very rare for someone to remain at liberty or on bond, on an appeals bond, while they are going to federal prison. Sometimes you can get a self-surrender date, usually within 30 days, and you literally have to turn yourself into the facility, and you have to get there at your own expense, but that is about it. It's not fun. And you will serve 85% of your sentence in federal prison, unlike in state cases where most people are released. Usually you're eligible for parole about 50% of the sentence, and you're released and you go do your merry way. And then on top of that, you get supervised release in federal court once you're released from the Bureau of Prisons. And if you violate that, any terms and conditions of your supervised release, you get to go back to prison, and you can basically serve that sentence and then do it all over again until you can get it right. I've had clients that have gone back multiple times, and the judge is like, we're going to keep doing this till you get it right. One way or the other, you're going to do it. So Miss Laughlin may want to reconsider what she is doing out there as it relates to, taking photos and telling the United States Attorney what she's going to do. She has a case where there's an easy money trail to follow. The co-conspirator in the case has rolled and is preparing to testify against you. It's not a huge mystery as to what has taken place, and it's simply not going to be a good day for her. She will eat those words, I do believe. She may want to go in there with a little more humility and see what she can do to do it. Now, what do most people do when there's a multiple co-defendant case? It depends what you want to do. If you want to get the best deal you can, multi-co-defendant case is that you want to get in early to cooperate because you're going to get the best deal. The last one in usually doesn't get the best deal because at that point they have nothing to cooperate, nothing to give up in that particular thing. And one thing I forgot to mention you, in the federal system, you get a trial tax if you go to trial. Under the advisory sentencing guidelines, you get a 2 to 3 point reduction under the federal sentencing guidelines, the advisory sentencing guidelines, if you plead guilty. And you get the 2 points pretty much automatically, but to get the third, you have to go in and actually usually proffer to the United States Attorney, not only tell them what you did, but tell them any more information that you may have, usually against other people. They want you to rat people out. Most people don't know this or aware of this, but in the federal system, that's how they build more cases. That's how they build these cases against the co-defendants when they do these multi-co-defendant type cases. They charge everybody to the kingpin, to everybody in between, and down below. The person down below is like, oh my gosh, I'm getting charged with a conspiracy, and I could be looking at 20 years. Screw that. How do I get out of that? Adrian, quick, let me look at that, the super chat here. I'm sorry. Do you think they'll be in cupcake prison for them? Yes. They will be going to Club Fed if they go to prison. Why? Because it's a white-collar crime case. They aren't going to send them to a maximum security prison at all for a case like this. And on top of that, there aren't that many low security or camp type facilities. And in the federal prison system, you spend the last 6 months in a halfway house, which is, you're out in the community, you have to work, but you live in basically an apartment or a squad bay type of situation, and you have to follow the rules and work and things about that line. That's along those lines. So yes, total cupcake Club Fed is more than likely where they will be going. Yeah. See, Catherine saw that the indictment for money laundering, mail fraud. Yes, that's the superseding indictment that came down alleging that Miss Laughlin and her husband moved the money around. They were sending it through the facilitator's charitable organization so that basically they could help write it off and launder the money. And, kind of comes to a bigger issue is like, why were these people clearly, do you think this is the first time this has taken place? Do you think this has not gone on for years, trying to get your kid into a good school? Yeah, most people just try to help their kids out. They don't have to lie, cheat, and steal for them to get in there. And really what it does is simply diminishes the kid's achievement. I mean, let's say their parents helped them out just a little bit, but now they're simply going to be known as, they can't accomplish anything ever unless their parents are there doing it for them. And they refer to this as Operation Varsity Blues. There's some blues going on right now. Miss Laughlin, before her hearing, is out there signing autographs and things of that nature. Those are not the kind of things that you want to do. Thank you, Scott, for all you do. I appreciate it. #1 crime channel, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Pink Lady Luck, I appreciate that. $14, $15 super chat. Thank you very, very much. Jenna Marie, Dr. Dre, he donated $70 million. Like I said, he did it the old-fashioned way. He just donated money. That will always get your kid into the school you want. Although I did know a guy that was offering to pay millions of dollars to get his daughter into graduate school at Stanford. And apparently they have so many people making that offer that they weren't even interested. So you just never know. So let's talk some crime, all right? A couple of interesting articles that I have seen over the last couple of days. And I don't know what is going on in Florida, but like the dumb criminal of the week seems to always pop up from Florida. Obviously we had an exception this week for the butthole tickler from Texas. But there was a gentleman by the name of Aaron Frazier who began excavating some dirt near his house. Basically, it was his childhood home. And he was digging it up and he found skeletal remains. Well, coincidentally, his mother had been missing since 1993, and while they were excavating, found her remains at the house. And the ex-husband, the husband at the time, Michael Haim, Haim, is charged with killing his wife, Bonnie. And it'll be interesting to see exactly what takes place in this particular case, because obviously they didn't have enough money until they had a body. Sound familiar, anyone? Like the Patrick Frazee case here in Denver, in Colorado that we've talked about, where it's tough to go without a body. That's really what it is, because you just never know. Maybe the people just literally walked away. You just don't know. So that was the other matter, the Patrick Frazee matter. Late last week, I was traveling for work, and I saw that he appeared in court, I believe it was Thursday afternoon, and the defense moved to continue the arraignment as they're waiting for more forensic testing to be completed. Frankly, I'm not really sure why they're doing that. If they don't have this information, you can always move to continue later, basically being removed. But I always like to get that speedy trial clock moving. Most prosecutors think that you will always seek a continuance down the road right before trial normally. My position, if you're going to do a homicide, you set that trial and you go on the first trial setting. Why? Because the DAs always think that you're going to continue, and when you don't, frankly, they're not ready. So that has worked wonders for me in more cases over the years. On a first trial setting, the DAs, are you sure not going to ask for continuance? Nope, ready to go. Let's do it. Because they're not ready. And particularly in homicides, there's just so many moving parts normally. The DAs just, they don't do it. They're not ready. So if I was Frazee's attorneys, and I'm not, and I don't know all the details, I'm not going to say that I do, but my advice is you get the arraignment, let's go. For the most part, homicide cases, it's simply, and it's an assault gone bad. You wouldn't spend a year waiting to drag a case out unless you have absolutely nothing or a bunch of eyewitnesses. Then you would drag it out. But let's go do it. You know what I'm saying? Let's do it. Abba, thank you for subbing. Appreciate that. Once again, so for those of you who do not know me, my name is Scott Reisch. I am an attorney here in Denver, Colorado, and I do criminal defense work. And I've been practicing doing criminal defense almost 25 years. Had my own practice for the last 20 years, and prior to that, I was in the Marine Corps as a judge advocate. And I started this channel really because it simply frustrated me, particularly when the Chris Watts case came out, about how uninformed. Lizzie, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the compliment. I was so frustrated by the news media and their ability to absolutely screw up what was taking place in the court system, to the extent that they didn't know the difference of what was going on in there, and they were just passing on bad information. So that's why we wanted to start this channel and hopefully be able to explain it and be able to explain tactical reasons. And this channel really kind of took off once during the Watch channel, but when they set it for a hearing, I made the prediction that one of two things were going to happen. It was a scheduling issue, or he was going to take a plea. Sure enough, he took a plea. Let's see, Save Robbie. You look familiar, Scott. Do you ride public transportation? No, I do not. I like my car. I like to drive. Let's see, Susan. Lori's husband is Felicity's husband is not. Scott and True Crime Losers are my favorite. Okay. Thank you. So a couple of questions back to public transportation. No, I need to be able to go in my car when I need to. I can't rely on anybody else. You have to trust, be able to take care of yourself. True Helper, thank you for such a kind compliment. Thank you. Crime Talk t-shirts, please. Yes, you can order your Crime Talk gear. In fact, what arrived in the mail today, although I don't have it right in front of me, a Crime Talk sweatshirt. Frankly, I like it. It's really good. It's got the big head fingerprint right there in the middle. You can order those. There's a link. You can go to Teespring, type in Scott Reisch, boom. There you are. You can get it. You don't have to buy it. I'm not asking you to go buy one. I'm not making my living doing this. It's just kind of fun to see how things can progress in this YouTube world, so to speak. So another story that I thought was very interesting was there was a story the other day. This couple sought the peace and simplicity of a farm, and they met a very violent death. So James and Lizette Eckert were, over the last months, they had 3 children, a biological daughter, 15, and 2 sons, aged 11 and 13. They adopted from Russia when they were boys, and they were just 2 and 4. And the Eckerts were found in New Hampshire, a farmhouse where they lived since they had moved from Maine roughly in 2012. And Lizette was dead, and James was taking his last breath. Both had been shot once in the head, and the police arrest 11-year-old about 2 hours later and have charged him with 2 counts of second-degree murder, according to the press release by state and local police. The release said the boy's identity and other information are being held because he was a minor. An extensive story on the parents. The 2 people that, with knowledge about the investigation say the alleged killer is the Eckert's youngest son. Few details have been offered about him, but like I said, their younger son who was adopted. And now Dr. Eckert was a doctor of chiropractic, ran his own, had his own practice, and he was really into helping people achieve, pain naturally free versus from drugs and things like that. And next thing you know, his child is killing both him and his wife. And it's sad, obviously, that one's child is the suspect, their adopted child from Russia. But, obviously it leaves the other children, their biological and the other adopted child, without parents. And there's really no explanation for the reason right now. And hopefully things will be, more information will come out in a little bit as information progresses, being at a juvenile. But, that is literally the things you hear about more are the more sensational things, the rapes, the murders, things of that nature. But then when you hear something about about children killing their parents, you don't hear about that very often. But when you do, you really have to wonder, why would they do that? There's no information that these people were being abusive, or these kids just having a bad day. What is going on in the world? I guess that's really the question. This is the question of the evening for everyone out there. What in the hell is going on in the world? I've said it before. If people knew about all the crime that went on in their communities, they would lock the door, have a gun, and wouldn't come out until the morning. There's just so much crime out there. People just do not hear about it that much. If you watch the evening news, I've heard it described as, you got the weather, you've got the case where the teacher is sleeping with the young student, and then you have some weather and some sports and maybe some more weather, the three-legged dog story to make everybody feel really good, but there's no real in-depth news. And hopefully one of the reasons why we look to this channel is for that. So hopefully that's what we can do. Now, somebody has told me that there is a sweatshirt that has been strategically placed behind me. Let me see if I can get that without making too much noise, because it's really a nice, I like it, it's a nice sweatshirt. All right, so I'm back. Here we go. So a bunch of these arrived today. This is the sweatshirt model of, you can get these in a shirt, you can get them on the mug, you can see that. Crime Talk hoodie, seems to be really nice quality there. If you like it, you can buy the gear. You don't like it, you don't have to buy anything. Like I said, this is not my day job. Haven't quit my day job just yet. But you can order them, and they arrive relatively quickly. Doll Factory, yes. Scott, did you talk about the Playboy model killer? Oh, let me double check that, because that is the one where the Playboy model, let's see, she was in the back trunk or something along those lines. Yeah, let's see here. Former Playboy model, suspected killer. Playboy model's suspected killer charged under violent strangulation at home. More strangulation. Philadelphia man has been charged with first-degree murder in the slaying of former Playboy model Christina Carlin Kraft, who was found strangled in an apartment last week. Kraft was last seen in August, and her suspected killer, Wesley Harris, had security camera of them walking together. They went back to her apartment, prosecutor said, and front door opened around 3 a.m., and the back door closed, and about an hour later, a violent struggle occurred in the apartment, and Miss Kraft was beaten, her nose was broken, and she was strangled to death. Now, I don't understand this either, okay? I don't know about you all where you grew up, but I taught my son. I have a son and I have a daughter, and it was rather clear. I was brought up as you never, ever, 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 ever hit a girl, okay? Taught that to my son. You never, ever hit a girl, including your sister. Even if she started it, you just don't do it. And I don't understand why anybody would hit a girl, strangle a girl, punch her, break her nose, and not feel like an absolute scumbag. You just don't hit a girl, all right? You don't hit a woman. It's just not a very gentlemanly thing to do, but yet people do it. I do not understand it. It's just common courtesy, and it's not because women are weaker or anything along those lines. I've told my daughter for years, girls can do anything boys can do, and usually better. It's just the way the world is. And if, unfortunately, women hadn't been held down so much over the centuries, they would probably run the world as they're starting to do, and they would probably run it much better than the guys that have been screwing it up for a long, long time. Now, I'm not saying not every guy is going to do it, but you never, ever hit a girl, okay? You just don't do that. And a society will be judged by how they protect their children and protect females from being abused. That's bottom line. It simply is the way society will be judged, and like I said, not because they're weaker, but they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect like all people. But for a guy to hit a girl, I simply just don't understand it, and there's no excuse for it. I don't care if they start it. I don't care if they do anything. I guess maybe short of coming at you with a firearm or they've stabbed you or something along those lines, you can probably defend yourself, but hopefully you can get away where you don't have to hit anybody. And you just see it more and more. They almost glamorize the stuff in the movies where people are hitting women and things like that. And just call me old-fashioned, I guess. I think you just shouldn't ever, ever be disrespectful to women. And like I said, the courts are there to protect those who cannot be protected, and it's just it's just not right, and everybody knows that. It's not anything that people need to be taught or something new. It's always been that way. There's been gentlemen, and there's been jerks, and a lot of the jerks, they just don't get it. And I've had clients come in, or girlfriends come in, literally black eyes, glasses on. My boyfriend, my husband's been arrested. I want you to represent him and get him, hopefully get him off, get him a lesser punishment, things of that nature. And I'm like, are you sure you want me to do this? I mean, he's the client and you have two black eyes. I don't get it. And it's usually the boyfriend is some deadbeat who can't get a job. All he can do is play video games all day because he can't handle stress. And yet the mom is, raising a couple kids, working 3 jobs, doing everything she can for this deadbeat. So, ladies out there in YouTube land, I absolutely agree. Never ever hit a woman. But will the smart, intelligent, funny, beautiful women of the world stop enabling and taking care of all of the losers out there, please? Okay? You can do better than that. That's Scott's advice for the evening. It never ceases to amaze me. I've had attorneys, I've known lady friends that have it all going for them. Education, great career, you name it. Can't find a decent boyfriend. But yet some guy who just got out of prison, who, has 5 kids from other people, from 5 different women, can't get a job, is being taken care of by a bunch of other people, can get a girlfriend within moments of being released from prison. I just don't understand it. So have a little respect. You don't need to enable these loser men out there. If the guy cannot take care of himself short of some sort of disability, you need to move along. Keep it that way. Angie Stone, we settle for what we think we deserve. Well, I don't know about that. People rise to the level of their expectations. I think hopefully my daughter will never get married, and I say that jokingly. But my joke was she could start dating when she was 30 after she graduated from medical school. We're coming close. But she's not going to be a doctor. She's going to be a nurse practitioner. But hopefully, I'd like to think that I've set the bar high enough where if Dad treated her well, that that's the standard. The bar has been set, and that she is going to have to look pretty hard to find somebody that can compete with the way Dad has raised her up. So yeah, it's Rosary. Yeah, self-respect, absolutely. Everyone should have absolute respect for themselves. Don't settle. Okay, anybody. No one should settle for anyone just because they think they should. Do not do it. Let's see. Confusion of gender roles has done away with the golden rule: never hit a girl. I don't know about that. And I think that you just never hit a girl. It's just the way it is. All right. And if you're not sure if it's a girl or something these days, then I guess you don't hit them out of abundance of caution. It's just not worth it. So, all right. So anyone maybe about 10 more minutes here, but does anyone have any questions about any true crime stories, questions about law or the procedure? Go ahead now, and that would be a good time. We'll talk about anything you want to talk about. Basically kind of an open lines or open chat. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. If you like the channel, hit the like button, hit the little bell so you get notifications. Let's see here. Scott, do you have a dream trial that was famous you would have loved to defend? There's so many amazing trials and so many great trial attorneys out there. I still think if it was, if you had a fiction trial, it would be, to be Atticus Finch and defending, the defendant in to Kill a Mockingbird. That's, I think, what any trial attorney, at least when I grew up, that was thinking, boy, I want to be Atticus Finch. That would be great. Oh, the Smollett case, it's heating up. Absolutely. Smollett. Now, remember, Mr. Smollett, Jussie Smollett got his basically free pass, deferred prosecution for lying to the police, setting up a fake assault, and then telling everyone that he was assaulted, and it was a racist-motivated attack. And he was charged. He shows up for court. And even defense attorneys and prosecutors alike saying it's very unusual for that kind of disposition. He gets a free pass. And he was supposed to do some community service hours. And then the mayor, outgoing Mayor Rahm Emanuel, says, we're going to sue you, and you need to pay us $130,000 for the cost of the investigation. And Smollett's attorneys are saying, pound sand, we're not paying anything. If I was Smollett's attorney, I would be telling him telling the city to pound sand as well. Because if there were going to be costs of prosecution, which that is referred to, costs of prosecution, the prosecuting attorney should have made that a part of the deal. You pay us $130,000, and then we'll give you deferred prosecution. And if I was Smollett's attorney, I'd be saying, write that check. Let's do it now. Let's get this over with. Get this over with right now. But since the DA didn't do it, I'd be like, I have no duty to pay. I'm not familiar with a statute where they think they can come after that because they never do it for anybody else. And so it's going to look a little shady. The people that need to be investigated in that particular case are the prosecutors. that did this deal. They need to get bank accounts. They need to get everyone's emails, text messages, anyone that had anything to do with that particular case, because that case stinks. All right. As a defense attorney, hey, if I got a resolution, I'd be saying I'm the greatest defense attorney of all time, and someone should be writing me a big bonus check. But as a member of the community, I'm absolutely offended by it. Now, he was given a presumption of innocence. He could have said not guilty, but he got a smoking deal, and that's what he is going to take. Let's see here. Let's see. A petition is being done to ask Crystal Kenny and 5 others to be charged with murder and conspiracy. Not going to happen. The district attorney in that particular case has done away. They've made their charging decisions. They're not going to do it based upon a petition. So you can certainly do it, but that's not going to do it. Scott, what is your opinion on the state of California suspending the death penalty? Scott Peterson and 736 inmates may get a stay of execution. You know, I'm a law and order type of guy. Rules are put into place. And if you do not like the laws, you know, one could argue the stupid laws should be ignored. But in the same token, when the governor is elected, he knows what the law is. The law existed before he was elected. The law exists at that time, and that includes the death penalty. If you have a moral objection to the death penalty, and that goes down a whole different road, and I'm not saying I'm for it. I'm not saying I'm against it. I've represented a client that they wanted to go death on. He wasn't, they ultimately did not. We were able to convince them that it wasn't a worthwhile endeavor and that they would lose, and they agreed. But I also, if you look at the Constitution, it says clearly you can have the death penalty. They just have to give you due process. And you're charged with a death penalty case, you get super hyper due process. And as we talked about last week, about the case that came out from the Supreme Court that says you are entitled to not a torturous execution, but you're not entitled to a pain-free execution because that wouldn't violate the Constitution. So, you know, that's where it stands. But if you're the governor, and this is what the law is, your job as governor is to enforce the law. That's what the executive branch does. That's what the police do. That is simply what you have to do. If you don't like the law, you go get it changed. But you don't say, I'm just simply not going to do it under my watch. Don't take the job if you're not prepared to follow, endorse the law, or to do it. And that applies for everybody. Putting me in my place, you've changed my entire outlook on life and myself. I'm a parasite. Thank you for putting me in my place. Yes. Not sure about that. Let's see here. Somebody was apparently trolling me. That's all right. It's America. God bless him. Has Scott Peterson been executed yet? No, he has not. What do you think about life sentences for minors? You know, most minors that I have represented, including 2 that have been charged for murder as a juvenile, I don't think they truly appreciated it. Obviously, for the families, it doesn't mean much as it relates for the victims because they've lost their loved one as well. But I don't think that a minor truly appreciates the seriousness of the offense or the consequences of that offense. And I think, you know, there's so many studies out there that the young men's brains don't mature, and most of them probably shouldn't make serious life choices before they're probably 25. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Well, a sandwich is something between 2 pieces of bread. I have a bigger question there. S.I. Sidith Kid? I got this one for you. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? I like that. How many can we say? Let's see here. Don't follow enforce laws you don't like. Just do my part. You're welcome. Thanks for that. Yeah, but Colorado governor doesn't back the death penalty. No, Polis does not back the death penalty, and the previous governor, Hickenlooper, changed his mind on the death penalty, originally saying he was for it, then saying that he had re-examined his views on it and would not impose it while he was governor. And Nathan Dunlap, the Chuck E. Cheese murderer, who went into a Chuck E. Cheese and killed 3, maybe 4 of his coworkers, 3 for sure, I believe. It was been 30 years, I think, at least. 19, yeah, at least 30, almost 30 years now. Still hasn't been put to death, and probably never will be. So you just never know. Let's see, Doll Factory, True Halbert, awesome, best crime channel. Thank you, appreciate that. So, like I said, everyone, appreciate you tuning in. Please like the channel, please subscribe, tell a friend. Let's see, Barbara, what is Rule 35 in Colorado? Could this be an option for Watts? It seems to be rumored on the internet. Rule 35 is the criminal rules of procedure. Rule 35, basically, after all of your appeals are done, you have an opportunity within the statute of limitations of that particular charge to file a petition with the court alleging ineffective assistance of counsel. I do not believe, based upon the interviews that Mr. Watts has given, I do not believe, based upon his guilty plea in court, as well as the statements, that he has any kind of a shot at a 35C hearing of any success, particularly when he explains that his attorneys explained everything to him, that they were going to go with a defense, and that he's the one that said, no, I want to plead guilty. So very unlikely he would have any chance for a 35C. And as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, these type of cases do not get any less expensive, and a 35C is much more expensive than the actual original proceedings. And you give up all your rights, and I say there's no chance. Adrian, do you have an idea what will happen to Frazee? You know, Frazee is I think is an interesting case. Now you have a co-conspirator who is cooperating, and I would ask for the co-conspirator's instruction at the time of sentencing that basically says that you've heard evidence from a co-conspirator, and if there's nothing to corroborate what she says other than her testimony, it says basically you shouldn't believe it. You should take it with a grain of salt, be very cautious and be very suspicious of that testimony. Additionally, at this point, we do not have a body. The police are still out there looking for a body. If it's such a slam dunk case and everybody's convinced that Miss Barrett is deceased, which I believe she probably is, why are they still out there looking for her? Why? It's a homicide case and there's no body. You don't need a body, but it makes it a heck of a lot easier. Do I think Mr. Frazee is going to be convicted? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It depends on how credible the witness, the Idaho nurse testifying against him. We're going to see. Does being a criminal defense lawyer get to you sometimes? You just full-time YouTube and will buy your cups and shirts. Honey Badger. Yes, some days being a defense attorney is some days the greatest job in the world. Some days I thought that I would, I don't even drink coffee, but I think let's go get a job at Starbucks. Instant gratification. Nobody is, they're going to be completely happy. You're not going to go from the greatest person in the world, you're a hero, you saved my life, to you're the biggest bag of trash. Why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that? And I knew somebody who had a buddy who had a cousin who had a case just like this, and he got it dismissed, and why can't you do that? It gets exhausting listening to everybody, think that they're a lawyer because, they Googled something. It's like when my client comes to me and says, hey, I've been to the law library and I've got this case for you, and it's just like mine. And you look at it and you read it, and you're in Colorado, and say, you know what, this case maybe been really, really persuasive in New York in 1964, okay? but the law has changed, and this is no longer good law. A lot of people just don't think or understand how it works. A case from New York has no binding stare decisis precedental effect in Colorado whatsoever. It's interesting, but that's about it. Emily, I went to YouTube University. I'm officially an expert on everything. That's right. What are those little? You see those memes? Don't. You can't substitute your YouTube search for my law degree or something along those lines. Not that I know every answer. I assure you of that, but yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I bet it's crazy. And the stories you hear. Yes, Adrian, these stories are unbelievable. Just when you think you literally have heard it all before, that you think you cannot go and do anything else, can't hear anything else, all of a sudden you just simply sit there in awe and think, why would you have thought that was a good idea? Why would you think you should continue to engage in that line of conduct? And sometimes people have no good explanation. Sometimes they're serious where they thought it was a good idea. Mr. Reisch, could Emily please help moderate? Sure, why not? I'm not sure how to do that right offhand. Let's see here. Lizzie, did you go to East High School in Denver? No. YouTube, valuable most universities these days. Yeah, YouTube, I can't necessarily disagree with that. There's a lot of people that always think, when I went to school, you had to go to college, and that was going to be you waited a door. But in today's world, I don't know if you need to go sit in college for 4 years to get a degree. I mean, college is more of, can you finish it? It's a maturing process, helps you figure out what you don't want to do so you can figure out what you do want to do in life. Because I'm a firm believer you have to figure out what you don't want before you figure out what you want. Scott, were you always going to be a defense attorney or were you a prosecutor? I was a prosecutor in the Marine Corps for a short period of time. Most of the time was a defense attorney. I never actually thought that I was going to do criminal defense work until I got to the Marine Corps, and I thought, wow, this is pretty fun. I knew I wanted to do litigation, but when I was in law school, but you were never going to be able to do any cases, for 5-6 years, and most civil cases don't go to trial. And one of the classes that I enjoyed in law school the best was trial practice. And frankly, it was probably the best grade I ever got in law school, because I got some average ones. But it was the best one I ever got, and that's kind of probably why I do what I do now. Kay, do you regret taking on a client? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes clients are very appreciative. Sometimes clients truly help. Sometimes they want you to help them. They want you to help them. And then there's other people that you think, why are you paying me hundreds of dollars an hour to listen to my advice and then do the complete opposite? I don't get that. Usually if I pay somebody $300+ an hour, I'm probably going to listen to their advice. And so yeah, sometimes you get those clients where you regret it. They turn out to be a complete time consuming. I've had clients where I literally want to tell them, I understand it's a DUI, and I understand that you think you're really, really important. But I have talked to you more on this simple DUI case than I have with clients that have been charged with murder or someone that's looking to spend the rest of their life in prison. So I understand it's the biggest thing going on in your world, and sometimes that's what you have to remember is when you have a client who's a criminal defendant, never been through it before, you have to step back and understand that they're scared, that they don't know the process. So you have to explain it over and over and over again so that you can do that. So, and that's what I have to do, is have to explain things so that people understand. Some people get it the first time. Sometimes I got to explain it 10 ways. The same thing 10 different times, 10 different ways to see what they can do. Duff Star, have you ever been bribed? No. There's nothing Bribe about? No. Don't let the power corrupt you? No. Can you please discuss the Durst case? I'd have to do some refreshing on that. Let's see here. All right. So recapping here, we're just about at an hour. I think it's just about time. We'll end this evening. But once again, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe. Please watch. I can tell you, I have a new video guy starting tomorrow. And so we will be putting out more content, hopefully, if not daily, at least on an every other day type of basis. And hopefully it will be good content that everyone will like and appreciate. I truly want people to tune in and like the channel. And the question is, do we do shorter segments? Do we do a 10-minute video or a 30-minute video? Or do we go live for an hour? Do we have basically like a talk show where we take calls from people? That's really what I'd like to hear from people, and let me know what you think you'd like, what works best for you all. Obviously, it's tough to go live during the day. The evenings are better, but obviously I still have things I need to do in the evenings as well. But this is, it's enjoyable. I like educating people on the law, trying to explain the cases better than what, people are going to get, hopefully on the news. And hopefully I'm intelligent and articulate that people can understand it and worth coming back. So once again, I want to thank you all for tuning in this evening. Have a wonderful evening. Please like the channel. Please subscribe. Please go to scottreisch.com. We have all the Chris Watts material discovery there. Another thing, we're going to put up the autopsy reports because I've seen some real big speculation about what people say about times of death and things of that nature, and they refer to the autopsies, and it's simply not there. So, read it for yourself. Don't believe everything that you hear on TV, even on YouTube. And if you think I'm wrong, let me know. Think I'm wrong. I make mistakes every day. I try to keep them to a minimum, but it's possible. I don't know everything. But be your own judge. Use your common sense. Use your gut, whether you think something is right or wrong, if it's accurate or not. Use what your general skills are. Judging credibility. What does this person have in the outcome of it? What's their motive or bias? The old classic cliche. Please tell me where you sit before you tell me where you stand, so that I know if this is coming at me biased. Is this news article that I'm reading, is it truly a news article based upon facts, or is it an opinion piece masquerading as a news article? Those are the things you need to ask yourself, and that's just things that everybody should consider. So don't take everything I say as absolute gospel. If I mess up, call me out on it. I'm okay with that. If I'm wrong, let's get it right. That's the important thing, is we want the truth. We want to get the truth out. We want to be as accurate as possible. Have we made mistakes? Have I misspoke? Yes. Will I do it again? More than likely. But we will do our best to make sure that you get it correctly, straightforward, and the facts. And we'll discuss both sides. Either way, not say any particular side is correct. Usually there's three, what do they say? There's three stories, each side, and then there's the truth. There's something usually in between. So have a great evening. Please like the channel. Please subscribe. Hit that button so that you get notifications. And like I said, hopefully as of tomorrow, we'll be putting out some great content. We have a new videographer and editor coming to help us, and I think you all will like his work. I sure did when I saw it, and I think he's going to provide some great content for us. So have a great night. Thanks for watching.